From programmer to victim to activist and back to programmer again. This is a hell of a story that Zoe Quinn tells us. Hello everyone, I'm Triple J and welcome to Brain Food, where I tell you what's yummy and nutritious for your head. For today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Zoe Quinn's memoir, Crash Override, How Gamergate Nearly Destroyed My Life. If you're one of the few people who does not know what Gamergate is, well, Gamergate is essentially a hate movement started by Zoe Quinn's abusive, controlling ex-boyfriend who basically decided that, well, if he couldn't have her, then she couldn't even have her own life. And as such, details the struggles that she faced starting off all the way back in August of 2014 as she dealt with wave after wave of digital attacks. As such, this book was a bit difficult to read at times, though not on any part of Zoe Quinn. It's more that having been a victim of bullying and harassment during high school for being a big fat geek, I could relate to some degree the frustration and anger and lack of control that Zoe Quinn herself felt when dealing with wave after wave of digital attackers. Thus, I would recommend that if you have been, a victim of either online bullying or harassment, just steel yourself a little bit. Zoe Quinn does not hold anything back when she talks about these quite awful experiences. There is a sweet slice of nostalgia to be had in this book, as you read along with Zoe Quinn's story of growing up in a small town, of the meeting new friends online through forums, email, and MIRC chats, of this sense through the 90s as the internet grew of this vast interconnecting grid of connections to be made with all these amazing people throughout the world. Was in a sense a idyllic, almost naive view of the internet to be had at the time. As we get to the part of the book where Zoe Quinn turns more from victim into activist, we see that there's a discussion in her book about how the systems in place behind our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, I believe, are systems that are open to abuse from online harassers. And it's also a view that I've seen echoed elsewhere, mainly Lindy West's book Shrill, and it's the same point made by Lindy West as Zoe Quinn makes. And that is that as these systems are built by mostly straight white guys don't really think about how these systems can be used by online harassers to abuse others. After all, straight white guys, well, we don't really receive the same kind of online harassment that women and people from marginalized communities face. Another thing I really appreciated about this book, aside from a list of guidelines and resources about dealing and combating online harassment, as well as strengthening your online security, is that Zoe Quinn takes the time to shine a spotlight and give a voice to people from marginalized communities that have long been targeted since before her. For example, Tori Musa, who is a South African game journalist, shared his insight about the harassment he faced over his review of The Witcher 3, and basically criticizing it for having almost no people of color in it. There's also the insights that Shafika Hudson, a black online activist, shared with Zoe Quinn, talking about how many of the accounts that doxed Zoe Quinn had long cut their teeth on doxing and harassing black women and black transgender women. See, this book could have easily been about nothing but Zoe Quinn's story and how she dealt with this vast amount of harassment. So I thought it was really wonderful of her to give time and space to these people and others to share their stories, to share their advice, and how we can all come together and listen to them and combat online harassment. There's also something of a happy ending to be had in this book, as Zoe Quinn talks about how she came back to her primary love, programming, thus giving us the upcoming Chuck Tingle live-action video game, which, full disclaimer, I also contributed to. It's a sweet, tender, and quite amazing story, and the joy that Zoe Quinn feels in being able to get back into programming despite everything is one that you'll feel as well. I mean, heck, a live-action video game? I have not seen that kind of thing since the days of the 3DO. And, well, if you're like me and Zoe Quinn and others who grew up during, the 90s, wow, the 3DO was such an amazingly expensive video game system. Whoa. Finally, I have to add that this entire story is wrapped up within Zoe Quinn's brand of snarky, quirky sense of humor. And it's definitely one that I really quite enjoyed, although it could get a bit dark here and there at times. She makes no qualms about how human she is, how flawed she is. At one point admitting that had Gamergate happened at a later time and with a different target, she might have been one of those Gamergaters. Heck, I could have been one of those Gamergaters. I was a nice guy in high school. I used to whine about girls who didn't date me because I'm such a nice guy and stupid girls date only jerks. It's amazing just how little, it can sometimes separate us from these other people until they start breaking out the swastikas, and then it's like, ooh. All in all, this book is funny, heartfelt, heartbreaking at times, and intense, and it comes with my highest recommendations. I bought it twice, once to have the hardcover book, and once for the Kindle so I could finish reading it at work. And that's not money wasted, it's money well spent. I definitely say buy this book and read it, maybe even share it with others who might be going through a rough time. I'm Triple J, that's all I got left to say. Take care.